Hi everybody and welcome back. Acurast has now crossed 250,000 phones onboarded globally and it's live in over 130 countries. And in today's video I thought I would share some of the current earnings when phone mining with Acurast, which phones earn the most and why, whether running this is profitable right now, and later in the video I'll show you examples of what happens when you stake your compute. So after this video you will have a much clearer picture of the earnings using Acurast. If you don't know what Acurast is, you basically run an app on your phone which share your phone's computing power with a decentralized network that developers use for AI tasks and different applications, and you are rewarded with ACU tokens for it. It doesn't cost anything, everything is free, the setup takes just about 2 minutes and I have a full tutorial video of that linked below if you want to see that. Alright, let's get started. Before we get into the numbers, here's how the reward system works. First, we have two very different separate reward pools. The pool that most people earn from is called the compute pool, which is where we get our mining rewards for. We aren't actually mining, but we get rewards for sharing compute. And every epoch, as you can see here, which is about every 1.5 hours, occurs 16 times per day, where currently 856 ACU gets distributed across all phones on the network proportionally, based on each phone's score. This is the pool everyone gets rewarded from when just running the app. Since that's the case, as more phones join the network, there will be more and more competition to get these ACU rewards from this pool. That is also the reason why the compute sharing rewards will change over time. The second pool, the staked compute pool, pays out over 5,900 ACU per epoch, which is 7 times larger, and I will get into that later. So for this first compute pool, what determines your share of that pool is your phone's benchmark score, which you can see in the app. The single most important factor of this score is the RAM, which makes up about 46% of that score. Then we also have the CPU performance, which also accounts for another 46%, and lastly we have storage, which makes up about 8%. So this is why premium phones with 8 to 12 GB of RAM dominate the earnings and why budget phones with 2 to 4 GB earn significantly less. So let's take a look at some phone reward examples. I'll go through the raw earnings first, then we'll look at the electricity costs on top of that, and then we'll put everything together and look at the profitability. Keep in mind that the numbers I show are the current rewards and earnings, and both of these will change every day, both depending on how many are sharing compute and by the price of the ACU token. First we have the budget tier, the Nokia C32, Redmi 9A, Moto G Pure and similar phones. The rewards they have been seeing are currently between 0.07 to 0.15 ACU per day per phone. And at the current ACU price of around 9.6 cents, that is roughly 0.07 to 0.014 dollars per day, which results in about 0.2 to 0.43 dollars per month per phone. Then we have the mid-range tier phones like an iPhone 11, Pixel 5, Motorola Edge 40 and similar. The rewards for those are between 0.33 to 0.43 ACU per day per phone, which comes out to around 0.95 to 1.25 dollars per month per phone. Then we have the premium tier, and this is where it starts to get good. It's phones like Samsung S21, S22, Pixel 8, OnePlus 8T, and the rewards here can be between 0.7 to 0.85 ACU per day per phone, which makes it around 2 to 2.45 dollars per month per phone. And lastly, we have the flagship tier, the best kind of phones for this. We have the OnePlus 9 Pro, Samsung S24 Plus, Asus ROG 5S, and so on, which can give rewards between 0.95 to 1.15 ACU per day, around 2.75 to 3.3 dollars per month per phone. Those are the raw earnings before electricity costs, so let's take a look at that now. Acurast runs at around 0.75 watts per phone on average. That is less than a single LED light bulb. For comparison, a laptop uses around 30 to 65 watts, so even running 10 phones you are using less power than a laptop. So for this setup with 6 phones running 24 hours per day, the total electricity cost per month in Sweden is roughly between 60 cents to $1.50 per month. And if we split that across 6 phones, that's roughly 10 to 25 cents per phone per month. For a single premium phone like the Samsung S22 running solo, the electricity cost for that would be below 30 cents for me. In the US, that would be around 7 cents per month. What this essentially means is that the electricity cost is a factor, but it's a relatively small factor for individual phones. It becomes a lot more relevant when we scale up a bit. So let's talk a bit about that some more. For those who want to run this at scale using many more phones in a more optimized way rather than just having a bunch of phones lying around, there are ready-made phone boxes built specifically for this called CellHasher. Acurast even have made an official partnership with them, and they make these boxes in the US. These boxes come in different sizes, can be empty or filled with phones, or just boxes that holds phone motherboards that run without batteries, and all managed through one software program. And due to these different kinds of optimizations, the electric price becomes even lower and more optimized. So if you want to run more phones in a box, if you're interested, I will leave a link towards CellHasher below that can give you 5% off on some of their products if you use it. And also try the code Nordic there to make them a bit cheaper. Now let's take a look at the current profitability numbers today. So for this setup that I run, which have 6 budget phones, which are the worst types of phones you can use pretty much, this currently only make me around $1.50 per month after electric costs. In the US, that would be closer to $2.1. If I were to run a single Samsung S22 premium phone, that would net me between $1.9 to $2.1 per month, depending on where you live. So these numbers at current ACU prices are modest, so we don't really become rich overnight, so to say. But I do think there's a special thing we need to consider here with Acurast that is unique, and that is, compared with all other mining projects pretty much, I'm of course generalizing here, we are not actually mining. We are providing computing power that Acurast use for real-world use cases, and I've never come across any other compute providing project that lets literally anyone in the world join and start to provide this easily for free, because almost everyone have a phone, so the scale of compute this project can potentially bring in is so much, and I don't really think Acurast market cap is reflecting that yet, which is also because they quite recently launched their mainnet, and so we are still quite early on. But considering the world's ever-growing compute demand, the exponential demand of compute for AI, it could very well be that Acurast is perfectly positioned to provide just for that. And if Acurast is able to capitalize on that, we could potentially see the market cap have a lot of upwards potential. And everything we have mined or been rewarded with up until that point will also then be worth that extra amount. So many who are mining Acurast right now are not really doing it to sell it at today's prices, but rather hoping to profit later. But this then of course turns into a speculative investment that could go any way, of course. It could just as well continue to go down in price if nothing happens. So nothing is financial advice. But now let's talk about the staked compute feature, the one that have the reward pool that is 7 times larger than the compute pool. The staked compute pool pays out over 5,900 ACU per epoch compared to the 856 from the regular compute pool. To be able to access this pool, you need to stake your computing power, pretty much saying to the network that you will be guaranteeing a set amount of computing power for a set amount of time. And alongside it, to earn even more from it, you can even stake some ACU tokens, which increases the reward rate. So the more you stake, the longer time you lock your staked compute, the larger your rewards from this much bigger pool becomes. But an important thing if you're interested in participating in this staked compute feature is that you must make sure to watch this video before, because if you can't live up to your set amount of compute, your stake can be slashed and you can essentially lose it. So I will leave this link to this video down in the description below that you can watch afterwards. But now we'll just take a look at 3 real examples to see what the rewards look like in practice right now. First example with these settings and just under 5,000 ACU staked with a cooldown of about 2.5 months, we see an APR of around 1.5%, which becomes an additional 5 or 6 ACU per month on top of the mining rewards. In the second example with these settings, nearly 18,000 ACU staked with 7.5 month cooldown, we see an APR of around 4 to 5%, giving around 64 ACU per month or about $6 extra on top of your mining rewards. And in the third example with these settings, over 61,000 ACU staked with a 14-month cooldown, we see an APR of around 8%, giving around 411 ACU extra, worth around $39 per month on top of the mining rewards. So in other words, by using the exact same setup we use for mining, we can still get the regular mining rewards, but on top of that we can also have the option to enable staked compute, where we can increase our monthly rewards by quite a huge amount actually. But that second aspect is mainly depending on the stake size and the lockup length. And again, it's worth mentioning, locking up your ACU for such a long time is a serious dedication. And also, when you decide to start the cooldown period, you essentially click a button and then your cooldown period will start to count down. So if I were to have 14 months here and then I would click start, then it will start to count down the 14 months time. and during that cooldown period of 14 months, your stake and rewards will be reduced by 50%. So that is important to have in mind. So there are for sure good looking opportunities here, but it comes with serious dedication of providing compute. And I do think this is quite a fair solution by Acurast. They are essentially saying we reward the most to those users who can give us guaranteed computing power. But for you people who are just starting out with mining Acurast or providing compute, the most sensible approach is to not use the stake compute feature. Simply just mine for a few months, accumulate some ACU, then if you find yourself having a setup that is rigid, it can run without stops, you can consider entering into this staked compute feature. And as your setup and your conviction in Acurast might grow, so might your staked settings as well, but that is up to each and every one. To summarize, at current rewards rates and prices, budget phones are only worth running if you already own them. Buying them new does not really make financial sense right now. But running Acurast on your everyday phone that you use makes perfect sense in my opinion, since you already got the phone. Using premium phones like the Samsung S22 makes a reasonable sense right now if you have a longer time horizon, and the staked compute feature can drastically change the profitability picture quite significantly, but it doesn't come without the time investment. I will leave a list of all the phones we know that we can run Acurast on below, and I will also leave the 3-minute setup tutorial video down there as well. And also, if this video helped you, consider helping me with a like, as that helps me out a ton. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.